The Istanbul Cipher. Chapter 2. We enter through the Calpacular gate, swallowed almost instantly by color and noise. The Grand Bazaar doesn't just buzz, it shouts. Brass lamps, silk scarves, knockoff sneakers, hand-painted tiles. Sellers call out in half a dozen languages. The air smells like leather, cumin, and something burning. Sibel takes the lead, slipping through the crowd like she owns it. She wears headphones around her neck, not plugged in, just resting there like armor, and clutches a slim notebook. "This way," she says, without turning around. Leyla nudges me. She's in her element. Don't try to keep up. Ayla groans. We're supposed to be documenting locations, not time traveling. Sibel doesn't flinch. Pattern is data. Tilework tells you who built something, who paid for it, who got erased after. We move deeper. The crowd thins near the Antiquities Row, and Sibel pauses by a cracked archway. Stone, dark, easy to miss. She traces the edge with her fingers. "This was a chapel," she says. "Hidden behind trade stalls during Ottoman rule. Christian merchants prayed here between selling spices." Emre steps back, raising the phone on his gimbal. He films in slow, clean sweeps. Focused, eyes everywhere. He hasn't said a word since we entered. I flip open my notebook. What gets remembered equals who's in power. I jot it, underline it twice. Sibel pulls out her pencil and sketches the arch. It's quiet now, just the scratch of lead on paper, Emre's phone's shutter clicks, and the murmur of a city doing business over history. "You know," Leyla says to her, half smiling, "you should have been born in the 1800s. Sibel keeps drawing. "The century might have treated me better." The line hangs there. Sharp, flat. Ayla snorts but doesn't challenge her. I keep watching. It's not just knowledge, I think. It's personal. She feels this. The kind of student who doesn't just study the past, she grieves it. We press on, winding toward the back alleys. Istanbul feels layered today, like every step could break the skin of the present and drop you straight through into another century. And Sibel, walking ahead, knows exactly where the cracks are. Sibel stopped again, this time in front of a sagging stone wall that looked like it belonged to a supply closet, not a ruin. A faded security camera blinked overhead. The alley smelled like damp fabric and roasting chestnuts. She pointed to a faint carving just above a rusted pipe. "Look." I squinted. Faint crosses, nearly worn away. One had been chiseled through entirely. "It used to be part of a chapel," she said. "They built the textile shops right on top of it after the city rezoned this quarter in the 1920s. "There's no plaque," Emre said flatly, eyes still on his phone screen. "There wouldn't be." Sibel turned, her voice calm. It's not a story anyone wanted to remember. Ayla folded her arms. "So we're memory archaeologists now?" Sibel shrugged. "We're not digging, just remembering what was already here." Her fingers hovered over her notebook again, but this time she didn't sketch. She just stared at the wall like it might speak to her if she held still long enough. Leyla pulled her scarf tighter against the breeze that curled down the alley. "If we document this, if we overlay it right, do you think anyone will care?" "No," Ayla muttered. "But that's not why we're doing it, is it?" I stayed back, letting them circle each other, letting the tension breathe. This was what teaching used to be at its best, when you didn't step in. When the conversation made the learning, not the other way around. Sibel ran her thumb over one of the faded crosses. My grandfather used to say, "History isn't what happened. It's what survived." I jotted the quote in the margin of my page, right under my earlier note. What survives, and who decides? Something was unfolding in these kids. Not just a project, not just tech. They were circling something harder, sharper. I looked at the crumbling wall. No tourist would ever notice it. No guide would stop here. But it had once been a place of faith, and now, maybe, of resistance. The noise of the bazaar dropped behind us like a curtain as we slipped into the courtyard of the caravanserai. Cool shadows stretched across the worn stones. We ducked through a warped wooden door behind a fabric stall, and the world changed. The tea shop smelled of rosewater and charcoal. Low tables, old men playing backgammon, a wall of tea tins labeled in Turkish, Arabic, and French. Sibel led the way like she'd been doing it since she was 6. The server, mid-70s, white mustache, hands like folded parchment, looked up and smiled. "Sibel Hanım," he said warmly. She gave a small bow. "Same table, please." We slid into a quiet corner booth near a latticed window. The tea arrived in tulip glasses, steaming. Sweets we didn't order followed, a plate of sugared walnuts and a stack of simmet wrapped in paper. "This is our field office now?" Leyla asked, raising an eyebrow. "It's our breathing space," Sibel said. Leyla clinked her glass against mine. "You're buying, Mr. Merritt." "I'm not arguing," I said, sipping the tea. Strong, bitter, real. As the others unrolled maps and argued over GPS pin clusters, Sibel nudged her notebook toward me. She flipped to a page inked with delicate calligraphy, not decorative, not for school. The strokes were precise, purposeful. "My grandfather," she whispered. "He used to hide messages in script like this. Slipped them into books, folded them into prayer scrolls. Said the ink had to lie without betraying itself." I leaned closer. "What kind of messages?" She hesitated. Then, nothing. Just a shrug. "He was from near Ani, that's all." But I saw the tightness in her jaw, the muscle flickering near her temple. Across the table, Isla was tracing logistics in a grid. Emre reviewed the day's footage, eyes twitching to each frame like a surgeon checking scans. Then Sibel whispered something so quietly, I wasn't sure it was for me at all. "If we don't tell our stories, someone else will." Leyla went still. No expression. Then a small nod. "Or worse," she added. "They'll say we never existed." I didn't write it down. I just let it settle. A sharp crack echoed through the courtyard. Distant but jarring. Everyone froze. A second one followed, like a bottle shattering. Then voices, shouting. We all turned toward the window. "Protest," Ayla said immediately, checking her phone. 2 streets away, student group. Something about facial recognition cameras at the metro. Leyla moved to the window, parted the screen. "Cops?" Ayla nodded, scrolling. Already dispersing them. "Always students," Leyla muttered. "Always punished for caring." No one answered, but the silence had weight. From our corner table, the tea shop felt like a different world. frozen in amber, safe in its age. But out there, things cracked, got louder. Sibel's fingers tightened around her notebook. Emre stopped filming and looked straight at me for the first time that day. "You've seen this stuff before," he said. Not a question. "Versions of it," I answered. "Different cities, different uniforms, same fear." His jaw flexed once. "They say tech gives us freedom, but sometimes it just puts targets on our backs." I didn't have a neat reply for that. I never did. So I pivoted, the way teachers learn to when the truth gets too sharp. "What's next for the app?" Emre exhaled. "Back end solid. If we get more sites, ones people haven't touched yet, we can make the overlays feel like real memory, not just data. Hidden ones," Sibel added, still near the window. "That's the point." Leyla looked back from the glass, her voice calmer now, but harder too. "Let's find the ones they erased." I noticed Ayla, typing something on her tablet, had already dropped pins on a new route. She didn't say anything, but her eyes had narrowed. The energy had shifted. Whatever spark Sibel's words had lit, whatever tension the protest stirred, it had all focused the room. No more joking, no more posturing, just purpose. And somewhere in that silence, I felt the pivot too. This was no longer a student tech project. It was starting to feel like insurgency. Leyla reached into her canvas bag and pulled out something wrapped in wax paper and twine. She unfolded it slowly, almost reverently, then flattened it on the table between the tea glasses and half-eaten simmet. A map, creased, yellowed, hand-drawn, the kind of artifact that didn't belong in a backpack. Ink bled slightly at the folds. Notes in pencil, some faded beyond reading. One location was circled in red, hard-pressed like whoever drew it wanted the mark to last forever. "St. Astvatsatsin," Leyla said. "My grandmother told me it used to be here. She said she saw it when she was a girl, but I've never found it on any record." Sibel leaned in first, her eyes scanning the names. She traced a finger along the spine of narrow alleys, hand-labeled in Armenian and Ottoman Turkish. "Astvatsatsin," she murmured. "It means Holy Mother of God. Definitely Armenian. But this spelling, it's westernized. Pre-Republic, maybe even pre-1900. Ayla, silent until now, tapped her stylus against her digital map, zoomed in on a rough coordinate, and cross-referenced it with a modern street grid. No match, no listing. "I've walked that block," she said. "It's an apartment complex, nothing historic." Sibel didn't look up. "Doesn't mean it's not buried underneath." I watched them all, eyes on paper, minds spinning through layers of time like archaeologists with smartphones. Leyla was visibly tense, like she'd just handed over something more than a map. "Why now?" I asked her. She hesitated. "Because she's forgetting. My grandmother. And if she forgets, then that church disappears forever." She didn't say more. She didn't have to. I looked back at the hand-drawn map. Its curves, its quiet precision, the bold red circle at its center. It was more than a clue. It was an act of memory, maybe even resistance. Ayla finally dragged the red circle into her digital layer. No comment. Just a small, almost imperceptible nod. Somewhere above us, a seagull cried out across the rooftops. The call to prayer hadn't started yet, but it would soon. And this time, I didn't reach for my notebook. I just watched the map and the kids leaning in around it. We stayed there longer than planned, until the tea went cold and the shadows stretched long across the tiles of the courtyard. The server brought another round without asking, then disappeared into the back, like he knew what silence we needed. Emre had shifted to sketching code ideas on a napkin with Sibel's pen. Leyla organized the day's scans into folders, annotating by site and timestamp. Sibel was back in her notebook, sketching a doorway she barely saw. Leyla stared out the window, fingers curled around her grandmother's map. She didn't say anything, but she didn't have to. Outside, the city carried on. The clatter of deliveries, the laughter of two women arguing over fabric prices, the distant swell of a tram bell. Life stacked on life. Then it came again. That voice. The call to prayer rose from every direction, slow and haunting. This one softer, more melancholic, like the day itself was exhaling. I took a long sip of tea and opened my notebook. Flipped past the earlier lines, the notes on forgotten chapels, resistance ink, digital overlays, then found a blank margin and pressed my pen down slow. I wrote one word. Erasure. Not capitalized, not underlined, just that. A placeholder for everything they were fighting against, even if they didn't know it yet. Because that's what this chapter was, really. Not a tech sprint, not a team meeting. It was a reckoning, a gathering of memory, fragile and flickering, handed down through generations and now rendered in code and map layers. If these kids didn't preserve it, who would? I closed the notebook and looked at them. Leyla staring hard at a lost church. Emre whispering his way through an algorithm. Leyla triple-checking locations no one else believed in. Sibel curling lines of ink into hidden shapes. They weren't just documenting the past. They were daring it to speak. And from the look of it, the past was just starting to answer.